Hi, I'm Valerie with Now Gardening. I'm super excited to be here with you today because today we're going to do something a little bit different than we've done before. You know, normally we're out in the back of my yard in the vegetable garden and I'm showing you some tips and tricks for growing things and harvesting things and making your harvest last longer. But today we're actually going to move to the front of my yard because as you can see behind me, my entrance to my house is still completely in winter mode. So I'm going to take advantage of this break in the weather that we have today to get my entrance of my house ready for summer. I'm hoping to be out here on this terrace this weekend, having a drink, having some coffee, actually starting to enjoy the summer season. But the reason I'm bringing you along with me is not just to watch me repot some flowers today. The reason I'm bringing you along is to answer a question I've had many times over, which is, can I reuse old potting soil? Now the short answer is yes, but it's a little more involved in that. And so as I go along today, I'm going to show you a few different ways that I reuse my garden soil. And this works not only with your flowers, but also with your vegetables. I have a ton of empty pots right here that I already robbed the soil out of those about a month and a half ago when we were having a shortage of garden soil available in France. So I already robbed the soil here, put it in my raised beds out back, and I've got vegetables growing and thriving in that right now. So it absolutely works, and I hope you'll stay with me as we go through this together. Before we get started, I will tell you in transparency that I have in no way contributed to how beautiful these flowers look. I simply went to the garden store yesterday and picked them up, and so I guess driving them home was my contribution. The first thing we should cover is what soil you can't reuse. Now this one is a little rose bush that started out, it got hit a couple times with frost here early in the season, but this is not frost damage. It actually started growing back in nice and healthy, and then this disease or fungus set in. I'm not a disease expert, but this is definitely not a healthy plant. So I will not reuse this soil because I don't want to spread whatever it's got to my other plants. Now this one on the other hand, these are some flowers that have just popped up and just have continued to grow from last year. They didn't get killed off over the season, even though they're perennials. A lot of time when you have things in pot, they die off because the roots get too cold. So I'm going to clean up this pot, but as you can see, there's a lot of weeds also kind of setting in here. I do want to spruce up the soil and give it a little kickstart. The plants here, they were healthy last year. They died off because of the cold. This one is the same thing. The plants just died off during when it got cold last year, and so on and so forth. This soil, absolutely we can reuse this, but it's not ready to go as it is. And to be honest, most soil you can reuse. Barring infections or fungus or something like that, which you believe could be soil borne, you can reuse most of your old potting soil. So let me show you what I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is to remove any weeds or grass. I'm also going to start a little compost pile. Meanwhile, I'm going to take about half of the soil that's in this planter and add it here to my wheelbarrow. Now that I've got it down about halfway, I'm going to take my trowel and I'm just going to really loosen up this dirt, because this dirt is hard and compacted after sitting for many months. And I just really kind of loosen it up. This was really hard a few minutes ago, but I just loosen it and really stir it. If there's any big clumps of anything, grass roots or anything like that, that's probably a weed that sprung up at the end of last season, I just get rid of that. Take this new potting soil, which is rich in organic material, and I'm going to stir that in with it. This is like crumbly and dry, and this is like really rich in organic material. I'm going to mix this together, and then I'm going to finish filling it up. So as a recap, what I did is I removed all the grass and weeds. I got rid of those completely. Then I removed the old plants, but I kept those for my compost pile. And finally, I mixed and stirred the old potting soil to loosen it up. Then I added in some new potting soil to give us the richness and the organic material that we need for this to be good soil. So this is ready to go. So now what I have left in this wheelbarrow is just the old potting soil that we cleared out of these planters. And normally what I do here is I mix in a quantity of fertilizer to enrich this old potting soil as well. So basically then I've got my other planters are filled halfway with new potting soil and halfway with the old potting soil. And then I take this and I extend it by adding fertilizer to it and then filling my empty planters that I have. The problem is that yesterday when I was at the store, I forgot to get a solid fertilizer. So what I'm going to use today is I'm actually going to use a liquid fertilizer and mix it in. It'll give me the same results in quality, even though it won't give me the extra quantity. Wish you were here and could smell this. It's very ripe right now, so it's really like rich in organic fertilizer. And just to point out, I do leave some of the roots and the little pieces that were from my plants from last year, because why not? That gives me some organic material that's going to continue to kind of break down over the growing season. I do what I can though to remove the weeds or grasses that have self-seeded in my planters over the course of the year. And now this will be ready to either add to some of my pots, I'll kind of add it like a compost, or I'll use it to fill some empty pots and use those to plant. Now for these plants that have overwintered, I want to first clear out the weeds and also any dead plant that are still in the pot. I'm going to take this dead plant and throw it in the compost bin. Then I'm going to really loosen up the soil. It's very compact right now, so I really want to loosen up the soil so that the new plants are able to get their roots really started in it. The plant that's left here, I'm just going to give it a little dose of water with some fertilizer in it. And then either I could scoop out a good portion of this soil, just like I did over in those planters, and replace it with some fresh potting soil. Or what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to use the soil that I prepped there in the wheelbarrow. I'm just going to put it here. That should give us the boost that this soil needs in order to get it ready for the flowers. All my potting soil is refreshed and ready to go. So I'm just going to do one last thing before I start planting the flowers there, and that is to water it, especially for the ones that have the nice richly fertilized soil now sitting on top. I want it to get down into the lower layers of the soil so that it's all rich, not just that little layer on top. In the end, I filled up 1, 2, 3 planters, plus all of these pots, plus added fertilizer to this one and to this one over here. And I still have this much of the old potting soil that we added fertilizer to left, and I still have about a quarter of a bag. I still have about a quarter of a bag, or maybe about 15 liters of this potting soil, this new potting soil left. Starting to set the flowers out the way that I think I'm going to put them in the planters. Well, I finished my work. As you can probably hear, my husband has not quite finished his. Here are all the flower pots that I filled. I actually ran out of pots. I've actually planted some blueberry bushes and things in them so far this year, so I ran out of pots. I've got one, the purple calla lily over there that still needs to be potted, but otherwise the planters are good and ready to go. And I just need to get these pots into place around the terrace so that I can relax and start enjoying my weekend. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, doing things a little differently today, looking at some flowers as opposed to looking at the vegetable garden. If you did, please leave a comment or hit the like button down below. And if you haven't joined me already, please click on that subscribe button so that we can grow together. And I hope to see you next time. Thank you. Bye.